This is your first video for 8th grade language arts at Spratly. I use online videos to take care of a lot of the instruction that all you really need to do is listen and take the notes, and you can ask me questions when you get to class. So I sort of have a flipped classroom, but you won't have a video every night. You sometimes may go 2 or 3 weeks and not have a video. It just depends on what we're working on and how I best think you would be able to master the information. The video tonight is a short one. All my videos will be short. I promise to keep them 15 minutes or less, and I promise never to give you 2 nights of homework with a video. We're going to talk about the way time is structured in my class every day. And this is important for you to understand because I think that it's very important that you come to class being able to anticipate exactly what we're going to do if you're going to participate successfully. Before we actually get into the schedule, there's a few expectations that kind of stand over everything. I expect you to come to class on time. If you're tardy, it slows everybody up. If you're tardy, I report it to the office, and after your third tardy, you get after-school detention. I'm not going to play with you about it. I expect you to come to class prepared, and this includes an attitude for learning, which we're going to talk about in class tomorrow, as well as making sure you have your homework, you have any supplies you might need, you have something to read for silent reading, and your iPad is fully charged. I have to tell you that one real quick way to get onto my not so good list is to come to class without something to write with. That just blows my mind. And the third thing is I expect you to come in and sit down immediately. We only have 90 minutes every other day, so we have twice as many kids and half as much time as every other 8th grade in the city, and I don't waste a minute of it. I guard our time together preciously. So talk to your friends in the hallway. Check out what people are wearing in the hallway. Once you come through my door, you come through to work. I expect you to be seated immediately and begin the bell work. Bell work is the first predictable structure that you're going to find every single day in my classroom. Now, every single day doesn't mean it's going to be the same kind of thing over and over. It just means that you're going to do certain kinds of activities in a particular order. Bell work typically lasts between 5 and 8 minutes. It gives me time to take attendance, check homework, do whatever I need to get to do. It also helps you to get ready to get prepared to learn. So what I expect you to do for bell work every day when you come in without being told is to date and copy if you're in your notebook, or to take a screenshot of the learning targets. I expect your learning targets to be at the top of the notes you take that day in class. Then I expect you to check your homework to make sure that it's clear to you and write it down or take a screenshot of it. And then sometimes there'll be a bell work assignment. And if there is one, it'll be posted on the Promethean board or on the whiteboard. Remember, I'm not going to remind you to do this. You never know. Sometimes I may give you 5 extra participation points because I didn't have to remind you. But if I do have to remind you, there's going to be consequences. The second piece of every single day is silent reading, and it happens every day, and it lasts anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes depending on what else we have on the schedule for the day. You can read anything you choose to read except magazines and comic books, fiction or nonfiction. It can be an independent choice book. It also could be the textbook that we're all reading if you need to catch up. It really doesn't matter to me as long as it's chosen by you. During this 10 or 15 minutes, you may also choose to go to the library at Spratly or browse the books that are in my classroom library, and I'll talk more about that another day. And then finally, you're going to keep track of how many pages you can read within a 10 or 15 minute span during silent reading. So at the beginning of silent reading, I'll ask you to report the page you're beginning on, and at the very end of silent reading, I'll ask you to report the page you finished on. So that's kind of how you're going to know silent reading begins and ends, is because I'll tell you to get your book out and record your starting page, and then to record your closing page and close your book. Once silent reading is finished, we go directly into the warm-up, and it's just exactly what it sounds like. If you were going to jog or go to softball practice or do any kind of a strenuous activity, you would stretch first. You'd warm up. And that's exactly what this activity is. It's about 8 to 10 minutes. I know I just saw on the slide I said 15 to 20. I don't know where that came from. It's just exactly what it sounds like. It's a warm-up. It's to get your mind moving, get you ready to do the kinds of work that readers and writers do in the real world. So during warm-up, we might check your homework. We might look at a question a focus question that's going to help you remember what we talked about in the last class. It might be vocabulary or grammar practice, and it's always the time that we clarify the learning targets, that we connect them to the targets that came the day before, and we look at what we're going to learn in the class today. And I guess this is as good a time as any to make sure that you're very clear with the fact that there is nothing random in my class. If you do it in class, it's because I need it. I need you to do it to be ready for what we have to do next. I have a very clear picture of where we're going this year. I know what you need to be successful in advanced programs in high school. So every class prepares you for the next class that's coming. If you're absent and you don't make up the work, you have a big hole there. If you didn't do your homework, you have a big hole there. Think about the lessons in my class as kind of like links in a chain. Well, if you don't have the lesson, there's a hole in the chain, and the chain won't hold together. So it's important that you make up your absentee work and that you do your homework. So warm up is just a way to connect everything together so you can see how one thing leads to the next. When we're finished with the warm-up, we're going to do about 20 or 25 minutes. I call it exploration, and that's kind of what we do, because exploration you do with someone. You do with an exploration team, and that's where we all work together to look at big ideas about the themes, ideas, texts, about the concepts that we're studying in our units. It's where we actually begin to look at what is it that we need to know to achieve those learning targets for the day. So this is where you're going to get the new material, new concepts, new issues. Maybe it's a different point of view. Maybe I'll introduce a mentor text to go along with the text we've already been reading. But this is where you get the new material. It's where I clarify the connections between what we're doing today and what we did yesterday and what we're going to do tomorrow. Now, just because exploration happens every single day right after the warm-up doesn't mean I do it the same way every single day. I am bored easily, and if I'm bored, I know you're bored. So I promise you I'm going to try and switch things up so it's never just the same old, same old. I really would like my English class to be different from any class you've ever had. So some of the activities that I use during exploration, I use gallery walks, I use think, pair, share, I use focus questions, I use written conversation, I use a tea party protocol, I use mix and mingle. Sometimes it's notes from the Promethean board and we all work together. But I try not to do that very often. So exploration kind of lays the groundwork. It gives you all of the new information you're going to need to achieve those learning targets for today. And after that, we go to application, which is really the heart of my class. It's the time where you actually use the ideas and the concepts. It's the time you do what readers and writers do to figure things out. These activities could be reading a core text, reading and annotating, doing a second reading for close reading. It might be researching. It might be reading another mentor text alongside of it, a partner text. Maybe it's working with your partner. Maybe it's working on a piece of writing or conferring about your writing or comparing what you understand about something with your peers' understanding. It might be working with a partner to prepare to report back to the class about what you've understood. But the application time is the longest stretch of time in the class. I spend class circulating, talking to people, seeing if I can help, answering questions you might have that the whole class might not, giving you suggestions, helping you achieve the learning targets that I've set for that day's class. And it also helps me see who needs a little more time, maybe who needs to do it a different way, somebody that perhaps needs a different text. So it's good for you and it's good for me. But it's the heart of my class. The very last piece of the class for the day is closure and a homework review, and it takes about 6 or 8 minutes, last 6 or 7 minutes of class. So when we finish the application lesson, don't pack your stuff up and stand up and get ready to go. That's another thing that's going to put you on my not so sure of list. I end every class with closure and homework. I think closure is important. So I use the last 6 or 7 minutes we have. First of all, maybe I'm going to have you do an exit ticket before you leave so I can see just exactly how well you understood what we did today. I'm always going to review the learning targets that were posted, and we're going to talk about if we've met those targets or not. I'm going to answer any questions you might still have about what we did in class that day, and I'm going to review and clarify the homework for that night, because sometimes the homework is clearer after the lesson than it is before. And then and only then will I dismiss you to go on to your next class. Now, one last thing. That's all there is to language arts this year. It's the same time structures every single day starting in the next class that I see you. Your only homework for tonight was to be sure that you had your supplies and to view and record view this video and record one good question you have about the material. Your question can be something you don't understand from what's in the video. It could be a question that goes beyond the material in the video. Maybe it extends your understanding of the video, or it'll extend your peers' understanding. It might be a question that focuses on what you would like to have seen in the video but didn't. So when you come in, and the way I'm going to check this, when you come into my class tomorrow or the next time I have you, there's going to be an index card on the table. On the schedule for the day, under bell work, it's simply going to say video. Here is your bell work. You're going to take an index card. You're going to write your name in the top left-hand corner, your name and your block. And on the index card, you're going to write your one question. You're going to turn the card over, and you're going to write the word Ruby, R-U-B-Y, on the back of your index card. This is like my secret password. Say the secret word, and you get extra points. Ruby is one of my cats. And it's a way of rewarding the people who did their homework and not having to deal with the people who didn't. So if you do your homework, you'll have watched the video, you'll know what to do when you get into class, you'll know to write Ruby on the back of the card. Don't share this secret word with anybody who didn't watch the video. They didn't earn the bonus, you did. I wouldn't give it away. I am going to do this quite a bit. I may add the 10 points to a quiz grade. I may add it into a missing homework grade. I'm going to add it wherever it will help you the most. I hope you enjoy the video, and I will see you tomorrow.